Welcome back to another episode of the Even Your Dynasty show. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the second week of spring training games and who has stood out. Now, this criteria on this, I am going to be using overall stats for certain players. I'm going to highlight some guys that had big games or big moments in the second week, but some guys are going to get more of a cumulative appreciation of what they've done thus far in spring. Only, I believe, one duplicate from the first week to this week. So we're kind of trying to highlight different players and how they're doing. But there is one person that I do want to mention that was on last week's list as well. So we're going to start with the position players, and then we'll work our way to the pitchers afterward. So the first person is going to be Wade Meckler. He's hitting 381 with a 911 OPS, 3 stolen bases. Actually, I think he might even lead the team in RBIs. He has 7 RBIs. He's doing a lot of what he did last season, where he just hits. The problem is he is also not any good defensively and has made 2 errors and misplayed several other balls. Seems like every game he makes a defensive miscue out in the outfield. It's something he really is going to have to get fixed if he's going to be in the majors at any point. Because if you're a hitter that doesn't provide a lot of pop, which, I mean, I get it, he hits for high average, but if you can't provide a lot of pop, you better be able to play like immaculate defense, and he is not even league average right now defensively. So, but he's raking. He's having a really nice spring offensively, so I wanted to give him a shout out. Um, the next guy on the list is going to be Michael Conforto, one of a handful of players that I think everyone actually expects to be in the lineup every day. He's going to be the 18th consecutive season with a new left fielder, a new starting left fielder this year. So he started slow his first week, was 0 for 6 to start spring. He has since gone his last 4 games. He's 6 for 9 with 4 walks and a double. So he's quietly hitting 400 right now in spring training. But he's having himself a nice spring. Wanted to point him out as well. Next is Tom Murphy, hitting 385 with a 976 OPS, has 2 doubles, including a walk-off single today in the game against Chicago. He's likely going to be the backup catcher, playing most games against lefties. So he's having a really good spring in his own right. I don't see Joey Bart really pushing. Unfortunately, Joey Bart is having a nice spring, but they're pretty much set on, it sounds like, Bailey and Murphy. That said, Bailey has struggled quite a bit in spring. He's just 2 for 10 right now. He did hit the grand slam, but he ambushed a guy that was going to be in high A on a first pitch fastball that was piped. So not trying to take it away, still hit the bomb, but he has not really shown much, but there's still 2.5 weeks left. I don't personally think he deserves to just be grandfathered the job. He struggled a lot last season. For after that first month of being red hot, might have been about 5 to 6 weeks, but he hit for the last 3 months of the year, he hit a buck 83. If you compare his offensive numbers to those of Joey Bart's in 2022, he was actually a significantly worse hitter, even though everybody kind of bags on Joey Bart. So, and this is not me saying Joey Bart should be the starting catcher for the Giants at all. It's just, I don't think Bailey has done enough to just be thrown the job, and everybody talks about him like he's the heir apparent. So, lot to prove still. I really like him. Think he's going to be a special defender. But he might be one of the 3 to 5 worst offensive catchers right now in baseball. He has a lot of work to do there. But hopefully he's proven me wrong and he starts really turning that around. Next is going to be Wilmer Flores, who is hitting 368 with a 1,057 OPS, has 4 doubles and 4 walks. Wilmer Flores is doing what Wilmer Flores does. A guy, I swear, can just come off the bench cold, show up. There's no down period with him. He just shows up and hits. He's going to get 400 at bats probably this year, and he'll hit and be at least a pretty solid bat, even though he's technically a bench bat because he's in the platoon with Wade on the weak side platoon. But he'll get plenty of at bats still, and he'll be a solid hitter and a solid role player for the Giants this year. Next person. Now, this is one where his numbers don't jump out, and he struggled tremendously, and it's Casey Schmidt. And the reason I bring him up, he started 0 for 9 the first week of games in February. Dealt with a minor injury. Um, hadn't played since February 29th. Came back yesterday, playing yesterday and then today, and he's had 5 plate appearances. He's 1 for 2 with 3 walks. So a little less chasey Schmidt lately, and I just wanted to kind of give him a shout out because really it seems like him and Fitzgerald are battling for the last spot on the roster, the utility job, and Tyler Fitzgerald really has not separated himself. Neither guy has overly impressed. Neither is Otto Lopez, so there's a whole lot of guys that aren't really impressing there. But Tyler Fitzgerald is 3 for 21, and in 27 plate appearances has 11 Ks. So Casey Schmidt having a nice couple games. See if he carries the momentum. He may end up being a guy that could, make a large push to be the second, kind of more backup shortstop, but he's going to be a utility guy. Now we're going to move on to the pitchers that have stood out. First one is Juan Sanchez, who was Giants. He's a Giants minor league arm, pitched in AA and AAA last season. Left-handed pitcher. He's having a really nice spring so far. He's thrown 5 innings, given up 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts. He is a lefty, so there is a route that I could see him getting on the opening day roster in the pen. He has been pretty impressive in comparison to a lot of the other arms that are battling for those last 2 or 3 spots in the bullpen. So someone to keep an eye on. The next one is Ryan Walker. He only threw 1 inning this week, but wanted to bring him up because in spring training so far, 3 innings pitched, 0 earned runs. He's been clean. He's had 1 base runner in 3 in his 3 appearances total. So he's been really sharp. Wanted to shout him out. Next one is Jordan Hicks. He struggled his first 2 outings. And on the televised game yesterday against the A's, 3 innings pitched, no earned runs, 1 base runner, which was a walk, 6 strikeouts. The key for me is he only threw 41 pitches. So he was really efficient. He's working on that splitter that if he gets that thing figured out where he can throw for strikes, it's just not even going to be fair. He can throw that in his sinker, and guys are going to just pound him into the dirt all day against what is probably going to be an elite defense, infield defense at least. So him developing and him being a reliable starter that can get you 5 innings a start would really change, I think, how a lot of people look at the Giants rotation, because there's a lot of pessimism surrounding it. A lot of uncertainty, I think, is a better word. It's a lot of people don't think, there's any chance. I mean, I just think it shrinks the margin of error not having another starter, but it's not impossible that this team could end up actually having a pretty solid starting rotation. So wanted to give him a shout out. He was really good in the outing against the A's yesterday. Another guy that we've brought up is Landon Roop. Came in, made his first appearance of the spring, threw 1 inning, 2 strikeouts, hit 97 with the sinker, which I don't think anybody saw that coming. He kind of lives in the low 90s typically, and he kind of creeps into the mid 90s on occasion. He gives me massive Ryan Vogelsong vibes. Just Vogelsong, and I think he has better stuff than Ryan Vogelsong, but just the style. He's got that sinker and that big sweepy curveball. That's some people kind of compare it to Charlie Morton's. But the way you can see he just lives at the knees. He doesn't give up a ton of walks. I think his walks per 9 last season was like 1.74 in AA. He's a strike thrower with downward movement that is going to get a ton of ground balls, and he does have good stuff, so he'll get some strikeouts. But he just, like I said, he reminds me of Vogelsong in the sense that he's going to pound the strike zone at the knees, probably be pretty efficient, and just trust the defense behind him. And with the defense that the Giants potentially are going to be putting behind these guys, that's a great way to do it, because they, a lot of these young pitchers, especially, they're going to get held to probably top 80, 90 pitches. Early in the year, it might be less. Later in the year, maybe they stretch them out to like 100. It seemed like last year with Harrison, they kind of let him go close to 100 a couple times. But you're going to need these guys to be efficient with their pitches. And that's where I like guys like him and Mason Black, because I think both of those guys can be, very efficient with the way they pitch and use the defense and try and force a lot of ground balls with their sinkers. So wanted to kind of bring him up. That he was really good. And then the last one is Kyle Harrison, who against the Dodgers threw 2 2/3, I'm gonna put an asterisk on this. No earned runs. He did walk two hitters. There were two guys on base, and the game got canceled with two outs in the third inning and two on. So asterisk in the sense that very well could have given up runs, but he didn't at the end of the day. His spring has been like the full Kyle Harrison experience. So far in the spring, he's thrown 7 innings. He's had one earned run, 12 strikeouts, and then he's walked 5 batters and hit a guy. So you're talking about a guy that's giving up, you know, almost a base runner an inning via walk or hit batsman, but he's also got 12 strikeouts and guys can't hit his fastball. So you can see why everyone is so excited about Kyle Harrison, but at some point he's going to have to rein the walks in if he wants to get deeper into games and consistently give you 5, 6, 7 innings. I don't think he's going to really be a 7 inning guy until he dials the control in a little more. I know he's working on that cutter to try and get more quick outs, but yeah, the walks are still an issue, but the 12 strikeouts is definitely exciting. He's filthy. Guys just can't hit his fastball right now. And I mean, I know Tom Murphy said it during one of his first starts where he's like, he could have just thrown fastballs and none of these guys were touching it. So pretty impressive. And it kind of his ability to live at the top of the zone is pretty, that's what guys like Verlander and those guys do, where they just throw the high heat and guys can't hit it. So wanted to bring up Harrison again. I think he was my one duplicate from last week's episode, but that's all I have so far. Some of the battles are kind of heating up. There's some guys that really need to start showing something soon. I think Austin Slater, I made mention of today. He finally put one in play for a sac fly, but he had like 8 or 9 at bats and he had yet to put a ball in play in spring training. He had like 5 or 6 strikeouts and 2 walks. So, the Giants may end up having to make some difficult decisions. I mean, Luis Matos has cooled off a little bit. He hit a double today, but I don't think guys like Slater, like I don't, with the new manager in town and a lot of, these are the guys I'm talking about are really not just like cornerstone pieces or anything. I don't think Austin Slater deserves to just be handed the backup job. And no doubt we're going to trot him out, maybe not opening day because they might be facing a righty, but, I don't think he deserves that leeway where it's just he's one of your best players. Like, I'm sorry, he's 30 years old, doesn't really have a future here beyond this season, and you have a 22-year-old that is kind of showing that he can do at least what Slater does and might have the potential to be an everyday player this year and has just infinitely more potential as a ball player. And I don't believe in holding that guy back for a guy like Austin Slater, who is probably going to give you 1.5 wins above replacement value this season. So nothing against him. He's cheap, only $4 million. Like, I really don't have complaints about Austin Slater, but I think you should kind of get something for him while you still can. I think at the very least, you can probably still get just a mid-level prospect. Some other news, the Giants waived JD Davis. It was a bit of a shock, but when you kind of think about it, they, teams are aware that they can't carry him on the roster. There's not a spot. It's a math game. We've already gone over it on previous videos. Like, the math just doesn't work to keep JD Davis on this roster. So why would any team around the league, give the Giants anything of value for JD Davis? It just doesn't make sense for them. They can just wait him out and wait for them to cut him. And if nobody claims him, the Giants, now, is this kind of a Bush League rule? Perhaps, but because of the arbitration win for JD Davis, the Giants can cut him after, if nobody claims him and they don't work out a trade or anything like that. The Giants could cut him and pay just barely anything of his salary, and then he can go on to the next team and sign elsewhere. So, a lot of teams probably aren't even going to claim him because they might not even want to get him on his almost $7 million salary. So, we'll kind of see how it shakes out. But it is not at all surprising to me that they couldn't find a trade partner for him. It's kind of like the Joey Bart situation. Teams know that there's not really a place on the roster for them, so they're just going to wait. The clock is against the Giants on these deals. So that is where, I kind of look at that situation. Now, a guy like Austin Slater, guys like Luis Matos have options. They can move a different guy. So he would still have value if they were looking to move him. And they might hold him for a little while and then move him later in the year when hopefully Matos is just kicking the door down. So we'll see what plays out there. But that's all I've got for today. If you guys like this content, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate all the support, and we'll catch you probably on Tuesday. Have a good one, everyone.